Hey, welcome into the Stinkin Truth Podcast. Mark Schlereth alongside Mike Evans. Please make sure you subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. Give us a like. Let us know what's going on. Throw us a question. Whatever you, what do you have? We'll try to answer all those things. But we appreciate each and every one of you every week for joining us. Mike, how are you, buddy?
Doing great. Been enjoying the Combine. The Combine different this year. Not as much action in terms of the bench presses and the 40-yard dashes and everything. That's kind of been muted. But it's still important. And it's interesting some of the things that you learn listening to some of the coaches and general managers, like, you know, for our case here in Denver, desperately in need of a quarterback, and listening to how Sean Payton views the quarterback prospects and what's the best way to evaluate these guys. Because I know there are fans of teams all around the NFL who are looking for a quarterback or hoping that the quarterback that they have right now ends up being the right guy, but why is it so hit or miss?
Yeah, because I think, you know, it's interesting. I think if you look at the first round in general, probably finding a guy that becomes like a legit dude, right? Well, if you're drafting a guy in the first round, you're thinking, I'm getting a dude. I'm getting a guy. And if that guy doesn't pan out as a full-time, long-time starter, whatever, Pro Bowl type of guy, like it's probably a 50% miss rate in the first round. It's probably the highest miss rate based upon the rest of the draft, because if you're drafting 2nd through 7, your miss rate is probably a lot less in those rounds than your miss rate in the first round. And I think part of that, Mike, is because you get enamored by, you know, the height, weight, speed triangle. You get enamored by athleticism. And the easiest thing in the world to see is athleticism. You can see that. But that doesn't necessarily tell you whether the guy can play or not. You know, I mean, what do I always say about talent? Talent's wasted on talented people. So it doesn't tell you whether the guy can play, and you use the height, speed, weight, you know, all those things. You use that kind of those tangible things as an excuse not to study the film. You say, hey, man, he's got this height. He can jump over these many boxes. You know, he's got this 40 time. He's got this. He's got that. He's got this. You know, I always say about the bench press contest, you know, the 225, how many reps you can do, 225. It doesn't make you a good football player. It makes you good at doing bench. That's all it makes you good at. And so it's really interesting. I think it almost becomes an excuse not to study the film. Whereas a guy like me, for instance, I didn't get invited to the Combine, but I had really good testing. Like I showed up to other people's workouts and I blew 40s away and I, you know, jumped, you know, had a great vertical jump and a great bench press test and everything else. What did that do? It created an opportunity for them to go, oh shoot, this guy's a really good athlete. Let me go look at his film. Let me go confirm what I see athletically with the way this guy plays. It's almost the opposite of that with first rounders. Let me not look at the film and let me just confirm what I think about a guy based on tangible numbers. And that really doesn't have a lot to do with whether you can play or not. And I think one of the big things about the quarterback position is your ability, and everybody talks about it. Sean Payton was talking about it, your ability to process. It's the one thing in the draft process that you don't know, that there is no test for it. So for any position, if you process exceptionally efficiently, boom. If you process really quickly and you're right and you're an exceptional athlete,
Yeah.
well, now we're talking about the potential of being a Hall of Famer.
Right.
But you cannot play in the National Football League if you can't process quickly. And so it's your ability, pre-snap and post-snap, to take information in through your eyes, to disseminate the information quickly, and then to instantly react and make the right decision. And it has nothing to do with intelligence. That's the amazing thing. You can get up on a grease board, you can draw all that crap, and you can be absolutely eloquent in the way you speak, and you can have all the answers when they pose them to you on that grease board or on that film, in that film study. You know what it never looks like? It never looks like that when you're in a stance or you're playing whatever position you're playing, when the game is live. And the guys that can react and the guys that can process quickly are the guys at every position that can play. If you can process quickly, you can play.
And that's why when a Sean Payton comes out and basically says, you don't know. We can do every test and everything, but when it comes to being able to, he was using the example. He goes, I need a guy that can process like that.
Like one
snap. He says, now there'll be some guys that could do it like, which is okay, but I need one.
Right.
And there isn't a test for that, right? Because the college game, increasingly, they don't play anything close to what NFL offenses look like. So how can you truly gauge it?
You're sitting there going, okay, how is this guy as a progression thrower? Like, how does he get through progressions? How does he read the defense? And in the college game, I mean, you're throwing 12 bubble screens a game. You got a lot of mirrored route concepts. You're not in charge at the line of scrimmage. And what I mean by you're not in charge, you may be in charge of an RPO game, right? So you flag that ball in the belly of a guy, and you're reading one dude. It's a one-route read, right? So you flag the ball in the belly of that running back. You see the defensive end pinch down, and you're looking at the nickel guy, or you're looking at the outside linebacker, right? If that outside linebacker sucks up there, boom, throw it over his head to the drift route behind him. Well, you're not in charge of, hey, we're gonna fly to a 3-by-1 formation out of a 2-by-2 formation, and I want to change the personnel grouping, so I want to go in 12 personnel versus 11 personnel, and that's not college football. College football is line up statically in static formations, 2-by-2, 3-by-1, 4-by-1, empty, right? You line up statically, and then you say, where's my best matchup? Oh, there he is. Eyeball, sight throw. It's not like, oh, that defense is not good for this route combination we've got. Let me get to the next one. Let me get to the next one. It's not processing information. So for me, watching the quarterbacks, it's hard for me to watch because it's absolute trash. The college game is trash.
Uh-oh. Careful. A lot of college football fans out there. You're saying the game that they love is trash.
Yeah, well, it's trash from what you're asking those guys to do. You know, you know what the college football is? And this is why so many guys don't transition well. College football is we are USC or we are Alabama or we're
Michigan,
whatever. And we have better athletes than you. And so we're just going to out-athlete you. It's not about scheme. So you get in the NFL, and you know what everybody has? Great freaking players. And so now it's about your knowledge, about how you set guys up, about the leverage that you use, about how you attack a defense or a coverage. It's about how you run the ball based on the weakness of that defense, how you create those weaknesses. College football is, I've got better athletes than you. Pick one dude that's a better athlete than the guy covering him and go throw the football to him. And I'm simplifying it obviously, I'm simplifying it, but that's really what it becomes. So to me, think about this. As an NFL scout or as an NFL coach, and you're looking at these quarterbacks that aren't doing what we're doing in the National Football League. They're not asked to eliminate a side based upon the coverage that you see pre-snap, confirmed post-snap, and get to the opposite side. So you're not doing a lot of that progression throwing, and you're just not. It's just not the same. Okay, so that would be like saying, okay, here's what I want you to do, Mike. I want you to go down to the skateboard park, and I want you to watch these 5 guys ride skateboards. And I want you to watch them just grind, the rail and, do the loop-de-doop out of the swimming pool or whatever the hell they do over there at the skateboard park. So I want you to watch all that stuff, right? And then what I want you to do is tell me who the best bicycle rider is.
Yeah.
I want you to watch them all ride skateboards,
right.
And then I want you to be able to evaluate who's the best bike rider.
Right.
And you're like, well, they don't ride the bikes.
Right.
Yeah, I know they don't.
But who's the best bike rider?
Who looks like it would be the best bike rider.
Right.
Based upon.
So, and I love what you're saying, and maybe we're kind of pulling the curtain back on the whole process because I know we've got fans probably, You got Chicago fans, Washington fans, New England fans, Denver fans, Minnesota fans, all thinking about the idea of drafting or trying to move up to get a quarterback. And I think it's staggering. Just they'll try to convince you. The NFL people try to convince you that, whoa, man, we're really studying these guys and everything. I think it really just kind of comes down to they're just rolling the dice. Brandon Beane, the Bills general manager, was asked about when he traded up for Josh Allen. And here's what he said, quote, if he doesn't work out, I'm not going to be here anyway. And if he does work out, nobody's going to give a bleep. And I think that's really how a lot of these teams and general managers go about when it comes to picking a quarterback. We need a quarterback. Everybody says we need a quarterback. And if I don't take a shot on a quarterback, I'm probably going to lose my job anyway. If I draft the quarterback and he doesn't work out, I'm probably going to lose my job anyway.
Sure.
And if I draft a quarterback and he works out, great. Instant job security.
Right.
What do I got to lose?
The other thing,
but is that the main? Is that what ultimately all this evaluation comes down to? Is, hey, roll the dice.
Yeah.
You thought I was doing something else.
Right. There is part. I thought we were going back to the Cam Newton discussion.
That's why I said
that guy's beating off four attackers.
That's why I said roll the dice, because I didn't want anybody out there to be thinking that I was doing something else.
All right. So but back to your question or your statement or whatever the hell it was. I wasn't really paying attention. You threw me off of that. So back to your assertion. Yeah. Like, I think there's a lot of organizations, Mike. I think there's a lot of organizations that truly don't care about winning. They say they care about winning, and they act like they care about winning. But what they care about, truthfully, is increasing the value of their franchise, year over year. And the desire to find one, and they're hard to find, and then what everybody says that's evaluating them, generational. You know how many times I've heard generational? And you may have generational physical traits, but beyond arm talent and physical ability, athleticism,
right,
you can't truly evaluate what a guy is and what a guy isn't.
Don't forget high ceiling.
Yeah.
Got a high ceiling.
Right. And so, ultimately for a lot of organizations, they have that roll the dice, pick one, anyone. They're all the same, and just hope and pray that it works out. And that's kind of the problem with the whole process. And there's a lot of organizations that'll just sit and say, "Hey, listen, we haven't been very good." I mean, the Chicago Bears have never had a quarterback in the history of their franchise that's thrown it for over 4,000 yards. Are you kidding me?
Or 30 touchdowns in a season.
Are you
never?
Kidding? Are you kidding me? And so for them, hey, let's move off of Justin Fields, who we don't want to pay, and this is what I assume they're going to do, and let's go get Caleb Williams. And what happens? Well, we just bought ourselves another 2 or 3 years. Well, you know what? If he doesn't work, well, the coach was a defensive guy in Eberflus, and listen, we like what he did to a point. He rectified and kind of straightened out the defense, but man, it just didn't really work. And they just fired their offensive coordinator. They went out and got a new guy, and and so now we'll go down another 2 years of, hey, you know what? The future's bright, and he's going to be this drop back guy. And everybody talked about him being generational. And if he's not, guess what? Well, it was Eberflus. It was this. It was that. Not in the wrong offensive system. Whatever. And you just keep kicking the can down the road, selling your fan base on the next one. The next one. It's going to be the next one. It's the Jets. It's the next one. It's the next one. And eventually, you've gone 20 years without being in a playoff team. And you wonder what happened. And you draft another guy and then another guy. And then, the process, I'm not saying it's easy. It's not. It's exceptionally hard. And it's not college football's, responsibility to develop quarterbacks for the NFL. They're trying to play their game. Anyhow, I'm not saying it's easy, but gosh, it is. It's one of those things. You better fall in love with somebody's you better fall in love with somebody as a guy. You better fall in love with his skill set, but you also better have a great sense of who that dude is and the way that guy works and the way he's going to be dedicated to the craft.
Let's mix up some other topics here because the Combine's going on, but there's still plenty of NFL news. I find this really intriguing. The free agent running back pool.
Oh, my gosh.
Wow. Listen to some of these names that figure to be out there as free agents because franchise tags are not going to be administered to these guys. Okay, I'm just off the top of my head. We've got Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Tony Pollard, Austin Eckler, Devin Singletary, DeAndre Swift, Zeke Elliott. I mean, there are more out there. Possibly Josh Jacobs.
Yeah.
Wow. I guess my first thought in all of that is I got football people every single week on this podcast, you saying how important the running game is. Have you ever seen a bigger disconnect between supposedly how important these guys are and how nobody wants to pay them?
Right. But again, because unlike the quarterback position, the transition from college football to professional football at the running back position, and this is going to piss off a lot of running backs, may be the easiest transition in football. And so, blame my former coach, Mike Shanahan, where every running back you go get, regardless of where you get him, rushes for 1,000 yards. And so you get into, our system, and we coach the guy the right way, and if the guy has the ability to see and read and understand that feel, he's going to be an effective tool for us. And all you got to do is go through the draft the last 2 years. Isaiah Pacheco, 7th rounder. And, the guy is a superstar. He's a stud in the 7th round. The other thing you have to understand is in this business, at that position, those guys take such a beating that their shelf life doesn't last after their first contract. Yep. So the odds of that guy being productive and being healthy after his 4th year or 5th year is slim to none anyhow. And if I can just replace him with somebody who doesn't cost me anything, why would I franchise the guy? Why would I go down that road? And so, it's become one of those positions where your value is it's just not one that NFL franchises put a lot of merit into your value as, based on longevity and all those things.
So that's tough news for the running backs, but it's great for the teams because there is a big pool of free agent running backs with a lot of value there that you're not going to have to overpay for these guys, and there's going to be a lot of options.
Right.
So if you're a team that needs a running back, or if you're looking for a complementary running back, a Thunder to your Lightning or Lightning to your Thunder type running back, there got to be some really nice options out there. That's not going to break the bank.
Right. Yeah, that's the other thing is you're just not going to get long-term big money contracts. And so you're 100% correct, man. If you want to sit there and go after Saquon Barkley, who is still an outstanding player, and he's a very versatile player, and you say, hey, man, we can get him on the cheap, 2-year deal, 3-year deal, whatever it is. And especially with these teams, the cap just went up $30 million, especially with these teams that have cap room. Shoot, there are guys who are difference makers at that position that are going to be there for the taking.
Miami Dolphins are reportedly talking about a contract extension with Tua Tagovailoa.
Mm-hmm.
Smart move? Or is it the only move?
Right. I think it's a great question. I think it's more the only move than it is the smart move. And Tua had some great games and was incredibly efficient and it was great. Where he was great to me was anticipating windows and throwing it into windows. But there's part of me that sits and says, is that because Tua's that good, or is that because he's got that many weapons? It's the old what's more important? A great quarterback that makes receivers great, are great receivers. It takes an average quarterback and elevates him. And like one thing we've seen with Patrick Mahomes is give me the greatest receivers on the planet, I'll win with them. Give me very average receivers, I'll win with them. Led the league in drops, led the league in led the league in bad statistical categories, and still won a Super Bowl. So, do I think Tua is a guy that can elevate receivers, average guys, to become great? No, I don't. But they've got so much speed, so much athleticism, and I will say that there are a lot of things he's really good at. And so, I look at the quarterback market and go, well, where are you going to go then? If you decide to go away from him because you don't want to pay him, then where are you going to go?
Tough place to be in because you're not convinced he passes the confetti test, for example. But you also know he's not a bum.
Right.
And so I don't know if I can win big with him, but how difficult it's going to be to find somebody better than him.
Yeah.
And so
that is a
devil is better.
Yeah. And let's face it, they won a lot of games and they put up a lot of points and they did a lot of really nice things this year. So, yeah, I think you just have to pay him, but it's almost like that Daniel Jones contract you signed.
Yeah.
And it's what Chicago's going through right now.
Yep.
Is he a long-term solution? Chicago's looking at Justin Fields going, okay, we like him, but do we love him? We think he could be good, but, Sean Payton said this at the draft the other day, or not the draft, but at the combine the other day. And he's 100% right. And he said, this league ultimately boils down, regardless of how athletic your quarterback is and all those things, can he beat people from the pocket? Because eventually what teams will make you do is beat them from the pocket. And the rush plan, everything else, all you have to do is go back to the AFC Championship game and watch Kansas City dismantle Baltimore and watch that offense sputter. Because their rush plan and the way they played them said, Lamar, beat us from the pocket. And if you can, we'll tip our caps to you. But we don't believe you can. And you know what? Baltimore put up 10 points. Lost the game 17-10. This prolific offense with the MVP quarterback operating it put up 10 freaking points. So eventually that's going to happen to you. And ultimately, as a team, to win a championship, you have to have a guy, when they force you to play from the pocket, you have to have a guy that can play from the pocket. And until that changes, until somebody wins it some other way, I am going to go and side with Sean. You better have a dude that can do it from the pocket.
One other one, and this goes back to your idea about the importance of if you're not sure you have the quarterback, you better put really good pieces around him. I think the Raiders are sending that message. They say they're not interested in trading Davante Adams, and that seems to make a whole heck of a lot of sense because when you're still unsure of what you have at the quarterback position, you don't want to be giving up on guys like Davante Adams.
It's crazy because when you think about Davante Adams, I don't think about him as a guy that's, double digits in this league. Like, this dude's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
He's still, ultimately, he's a big-time weapon. He's a very productive guy. But, yeah, you want, especially with free agency rolling out, you want to have, like, if you're going to go down the Baker Mayfield route or, one of those routes kind of thing, you definitely want to have weapons there that entice players to want to come play for you. And then if you're going to go down the, hey, let's go draft ourselves a rookie quarterback, you want weapons around that guy so you can give him give him the biggest chance to succeed in a position that's really hard to succeed in. So, yeah, I can totally understand where they're coming from. And ultimately, you look at it and go, what's more valuable to us, Davante Adams or Josh Jacobs? Guess what? Davante. Because we can go find another running back. Right. But you're not going to go find another Davante. Anyhow.
Final note, too. You were mentioning Mahomes making chicken salad out of you know what at times this year. Marquez Valdez-Scantling cut. Saving about $12 million under the cap for Kansas City. That seems like a no-brainer. Made a big catch in the Super Bowl. Thank you very much. But
he came away with a couple big catches in the playoffs down the stretch, but he was a disappointment at best.
Yeah.
Drops and got to the point where he was hardly playing at all, and but he did make some big plays down the stretch. So yeah, it seems like a no-brainer. And you know, I mean, those are the decisions that are being made right now. Those are not that they're tough decisions, but there's a lot of those decisions that will continue to come down the pike on players that are good, but they just don't quite fit.
Where do you see Kansas City going in that direction with the wide receiver group? Because just because they made, or just because Mahomes made it work with less, do you think that's something they want to continue to test every year, or do you see them trying to go back and go after a big time, big name receiver?
I think ultimately, I think they feel like Rice is going to become that guy. You still have the middle of the field controlled with Travis Kelce, although that guy's been around for a long time too. I feel like you'll go out there and you'll go try to figure out, in free agency, who's a good receiver, who's a value guy that's going to bring you, proposition value, like a guy that's going to bring you a lot of value that's not going to break the bank. And I think there will be plenty of guys out there that you can negotiate with and do that. And then obviously you're going to try to draft the guy too and see if you can, can go down that route. So, but they've got the advantage of having a unicorn playing quarterback for them. So whoever they have, they're going to be okay, and he's going to help make those guys successful. So they did it this year, and I just have a feeling they'll do it again, in the subsequent years. It'll be really interesting to see, one of the first teams since the Patriots of the 2000s or the Broncos of the late 90s have a chance to three-peat. But they have a legit chance. I mean, our quarterback retired, so that's going to be tough, and it'll be interesting.
Well, listen, I'm looking forward to you grinding through combine tape over the next 4 or 5 days and then being able to comment on all of it.
There is nothing I like better than watching guys run around their underpants.
Underwear Olympics, that's what he calls it.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Hope there's another Chris Jones out there where his stuff falls out. For everybody involved in the Stinkin Truth podcast.
You want to do the roll the dice thing? Or?
Yeah, right.
Leave it to me.
All the guys, everybody involved in the Stinkin Truth podcast, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you. Make sure you subscribe and do all those things that you do. We appreciate you. We will talk to you later on next week. Hey, for everybody involved in the Stinkin Truth, we thank you so much. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure you don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel for more content just like this. If you want to see more of our videos, you can also be sure to check out our playlist. Let us know exactly what you think in the comments below. We appreciate you guys so much for being a part of that.
Don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest updates. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.